My name is Heather Retberg. I farm with my husband in Penobscot at Quill's Farm. Also a member of Local Food Rules, which is the group that put together the Local Food and Community Self-Governance Ordinance, which is passed in 10 towns now in Maine, and which Representative Jones very eloquently read from in his own remarks. Also a board member at Food for Maine's Future, which is the group statewide that is really doing a lot to support small farms and people's rights to access the foods of their choosing. I've been introduced to you as a farmer activist, which is a term that I still kind of have a hard time getting my head around is the word activist, but I've home birthed 2 of my children, homeschooled all 3, and we feed them a whole lot of homegrown, home processed food. So over time I've come to understand that when you homeschool, home birth, and feed homegrown food, you're probably going to end up politically active. So not that many years ago, home birthing was a very fraught battlefield. Women and their families then stood together with experienced midwives to protect a way of bringing babies into the world that was safe from unnecessary intervention. The courts tried midwives for practicing medicine without a license, but the women and their families and the midwives stood together. And now we birth at home without fear of the law, in the security of our homes, in the hands of skilled midwives. In Maine, we're really lucky. A lot of our home birth midwives have developed their own licensing and accreditation system, which gives us a further protection apart from the medical establishment. Over time, the medical establishment here in Maine has even come to respect the home birthing midwives and works with them professionally and will even give some of them hospital privileges. It's been a long, hard road that people fought together, but they did it because they stood together, because we stood together and said, this is safe, this is right, this is what we believe in. Not too many years ago here in Bangor, Maine, a mother was put in prison and charged with neglect because she homeschooled her family. The children at that time were charged with truancy if they weren't in school. But those families accepted the responsibility to educate their children at home, and mothers went to jail. But families stood together. Homeschoolers no longer go to jail for raising their children at home, learning alongside with their parents and their siblings. We stood together, and homeschooling is accepted. Now food is the fraught battlefield, and there's a battle that we all have to undergo together, standing together. Just 2 years ago, when towns in Maine, both farmers and patrons together, saw the trends of the laws and rules coming from the corporate food establishment, threatening our homegrown food, our small farms, and our homesteads, we got together and, standing together, codified into law the shared responsibility of our food exchanges. The local food and community self-governance ordinances kept the rule of law behind the local food system that people in our communities already have. It says in part that citizens possess the right to produce, process, purchase, sell, and consume local foods of their choosing. Now, when we put that in there, why wouldn't we have the right to consume foods of our choosing? Well, here we have a horrible situation. You know, we have a young mother who needs support, who's being threatened to have her child removed from her because she's giving that baby foods of her choosing. So we put that into law in our towns. We said we do have that right, and further, that citizens in our towns possess the right to adopt measures which prevent the violations of the rights that are enumerated in the ordinance. 10 towns in Maine now stand together in their communities and with each other to accept the responsibility to ensure the safety of our local food and to ensure the rights to foods of our choosing. In response, one state agency sued a farmer to test the ordinances and the communities which passed them. But we stand together to protect what we value. Now, a different state agency has threatened to remove a baby from his mother over food. When the Department of Agriculture sued Farmer Brown over licensing issues, it inserted a claim about food safety, disparaging the quality of Dan's milk. But suing a farmer doesn't address food safety. If there's concern about the safety of Carson, threats and intimidation are not an answer to safety. Every new mother, regardless of age, needs support. Every new mother needs support, and I am so happy to see everyone here today to give Alorah and her family support for her choices. So DHHS has responded with a threat for the worst kind of punishment any mother could imagine, taking a child away. The care of that baby is the family's responsibility, not the state's. The state could serve in a supportive role. It has instead threatened the integrity of this family. But as a community, those of us here today, and I think a much broader community that isn't all represented here today, we have the opportunity to support Alorah and Carson and Tanya and Matt. People have stood together in the past to protect home birthing, homeschooling, and homegrown food. Now, we stand together to protect this family. We can offer our love, our support, and the protection of a community joining hands to encircle them.